Welcome to 2020, ladies and gentlemen. In this next series of adventure, we look at President Trump calling for the 2020 presidential election to be delayed. Kind of in a similar fashion that a lot of people on the right were scared that Obama was going to do during the earlier part of this decade when he was the president. But I'm getting ahead of myself. For now, I'm Bill Milton, and whatever I usually say whenever I actually put my face to something. Let's look directly at the president's words via Twitter. I'm going to take them at face value, and kind of in between these clauses, I'm going to sprinkle it with my own analytics, informed and backed up by information that is publicly available. So I'm going to give you the full tweet, and I quote, with universal mail in voting, not absentee voting, which is good, 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. It will be a great embarrassment to the USA. Delay the election until people can properly, securely, and safely vote. End quote. Keep in mind, this was tweeted at Real Donald Trump, July 30th at about 12:30 in the afternoon. So these are the words of President Trump himself. Let's break it down into four parts, starting with this first part with universal mail in voting, not absentee voting, which is good. Let's stop right there. We already have a problem. The problem is that on the USA.gov official website of the United States federal government, where it addresses voting, the heading of the first section of this part of their website is coronavirus and voting by mail in absentee ballot. The second heading is absentee voting or voting by mail. And the first sentence under that is absentee voting allows you to vote by mail. Again, the official website of the United States federal government, which, mind you, Trump is the president of. So, in a sense, his own government says that absentee voting and vote by mail are the same. Next point, 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. And he somehow knows that months before it happens. Donald Trump's predictive capabilities are also under question in my mind, given that he said that 15 coronavirus cases would be down to zero within a couple of days. And this was something he said way back at the end of February. Here we are at the beginning of August, where that didn't happen. Also, has anybody explained anywhere how mail in voting is more inaccurate as far as the validity of the election than if you vote in person? Has anybody, never mind Trump specifically, can anybody prove that? I mean, they talk about voter ID laws, and like all the IDs that you need are mailed in. So, mailing can't be that bad if they'll mail you the official IDs and the stimulus and all that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The next point is when he says it will be a great embarrassment to the United States. Now, the standing and embarrassment of the United States among other countries in the world can be its own separate video. And the effect that Trump has had on that standing since he's been the president can, apart from that, be its own second video. You could have two separate videos from that. But to sum up my thoughts here, it would not be an embarrassment for a country of 300 million people to find a way to implement universal mail in voting. If anything, it would make the United States look very capable if they somehow could actually do that in time for the election of 2020. I don't know if they can, and I don't have confidence that they could, but that aside, the final point, delay the election until people can properly, securely, and safely vote? I'm asking that like a question because the president himself put question marks on. Why? I haven't the slightest idea. But, point aside, a presidential election has never been delayed, ever, for any reason in the 240 something years that we've had them. We haven't had them for 240 years. We've only had them for, actually, we might have, but point being, it's never been done for any reason. Now, can it actually be done? Yes and no. It kind of can, but Trump can't do it. There are 4 dates that we need to know as far as electing the president, and I'll keep this very brief. The first Tuesday after November 1st, is the day when the people cast their ballots, which this year is November 3rd. The first Monday after December 12th is when the electors meet in the respective state capitals to cast their votes, which are the actual 500 something people whose votes actually count. And not today, this year, will be December 14th. January 6th is when Congress certifies and counts the electoral votes, which actually might have meant something at the beginning of this country, but at this point, with a lot of the process automated, it's basically just an archaic rubber stamp. It's basically just that same brand nosing crap that we see from government. January 20th, as we all know, is when the presidential term begins, be it for a re-elected President Trump or a newly elected President Biden. Because the elections are administered by the state, an individual state or a bunch of them working together can, in effect, push the election from November 3rd until December 14th, which is the relevance of why I brought up these dates, because, they have to meet in and cast their votes on December 14th, the electors in their respective states, which is codified in U.S. law. So anything beyond that, you need an act of Congress, and you might need a constitutional amendment, which either or, would be very hard. And I doubt that there is any state that loves the taste of our president's shoe polish enough to try to move the election, never mind a coordinated effort by multiple states that could succeed if there were. If there were, and, just to cap it up, I'm just reading the president's words as he said them and comparing them with information that is publicly available that I found through Google searches. It's all free and available. If anything I've said does not sound right, again, do please point out when and where. So thank you all for listening and have a good August.